Oh, d okay, here we go. All right, hello and welcome back, all you liberty-loving people. A big howdy here from South Texas. My name is Darren Pollock, and I am the host of the Ask Mark Anything show today. And so we're going to be kind of discussing some things. We kind of want to keep the lines along what the debate that KLRU hosted for the two major candidates, which they did not invite Mark, unfortunately, because I think that he would have just stomped them. But we're going to try to keep it along those lines. So we want to have all these questions kind of along the lines of what happened in the debate. I mean, we definitely want to stray off into specifics if we can, and we definitely welcome those in the Facebook comments on YouTube as well. I think we have somebody watching, so we'll kind of roll that way. But first off, I want to let Mark introduce himself once again and let him say his piece. Mark.
Well, thanks, Darren. It's good to be here again. I hope everybody finds this informative. And I would like to start by basically going over a 2-minute video that I did at NBC in Houston. I hope everyone will bear with me here. Texas government and governor keep getting bigger and more authoritarian than at any other time in history. Governor Abbott gives hundreds of millions of dollars to large corporations, while law-abiding Texans struggle to afford to buy a home. And when they finally do buy a home, are forever enslaved paying property tax. Governor Abbott, using COVID as a political weapon, has attacked and shut down small businesses, churches, schools, and other hardworking Texans with his unconstitutional mandates. And the Democrats only wish to replace one tyrant for another. The Republicans and Democrats believe they are elected to be your boss. They've got it backwards. You are the boss. That's why I'm running for governor, to put you back in charge of your life, with freedom to build a business without red tape or heavy taxations, freedom to keep the fruits of your labor, freedom to educate your children the way you see fit, freedom to raise your kids with your values, freedom to make your own health and vaccine choices, freedom to speak without fear, and freedom to worship in your own way. You see, in a free state, smaller government makes room for bigger citizens, people taking responsibility for themselves, neighbors helping neighbors, where a job is the best welfare program, and family and community are the best safety net. The Democrats and Republicans will fight with everything they have to keep this power for themselves. It won't be easy, but easy has got us where we are now. Commitment and hard work will lead us to a Texas where the government is servant to the people, where we are the masters of our fate, and you are the captains of your destiny. I'm Mark Tippett, Libertarian candidate for governor.
Resonate with everything that you said there. I mean, freedom is such an important thing to so many of us, and yeah, we definitely want to see that. I guess at this point we'll probably be looking up at our first question, and so this one is on the subject of immigration. What would you do to alleviate the financial burden on communities most affected by immigrants?
Well, the immigration issue, when it was posed to Greg Abbott and Beto O'Rourke, they danced around the issues, blaming each other, blaming the federal government, but really offered no solutions. This is an issue that takes leadership from the state to force the federal government to act to reform our immigration laws. We need immigration laws that make it easy for law-abiding citizens, hardworking people, to come to the U.S. legally. It is the breakdown of our systems that we have over the past 40 years. Both Republicans and Democrats have held power in the federal government on both houses, and yet they have failed to pass immigration reform. And every election cycle, they use these poor innocent people that only want to come over and work and have a job, make a better life for themselves, what you or I would do for our children. And the Democrats and Republicans do not want to reform anything because then they cannot fight amongst themselves. We need to make our voices as loud as possible in the federal government to be able to get comprehensive immigration reform. The situation is this. It takes between $20,000 and $40,000 and between 10 and 15 years for anybody to get a work visa to come to this country. These are desperate people. They need solutions now. So it's easier for them to pay $5,000 to a coyote and take the risks of coming across that way. Until we solve the problem, anything that we offer is just band-aids to the problem. And like all government solutions, the side effects of their medication is 10 times worse than the disease itself.
Yeah, I can't agree with that more. I mean, my family came through Galveston, believe it or not, instead of Ellis Island, but not that long ago, like in the early 1900s. And so, to me, it just seems absurd that like why that policy got reversed and what it's all steeped in. And it seems like there's a little bit of racist bend to it. Like we'll take certain colors of people and not certain colors and whatnot. But yeah.
It has sure been that way.
It seems that way, right?
Yes.
It may not be, but yeah.
Well, and it didn't start out that way. Well, and actually, if you go back in history, there was a time when they didn't want Irish or Italians, or
Sure.
there has always been that.
There's been racism involved for sure, but yeah. But I mean, with Ellis Island, it seemed like pretty much everybody got processed through as long as they weren't sick or some sort of a bad actor.
Well, and if you listen to the Democrats and Republicans, they will lead you to believe that immigration is such a bad thing. When immigration, we need the workers, the input that they give to our society, not only economically, but socially, culturally, is priceless. That's what this whole country is based on. It. They will focus on, will they bring in drugs, or they'll focus on the small, minor problems that we have homegrown problems 10 times worse than anything that the migrants can bring.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think we had another question come up, and the question is, okay, so we're moving on to the abortion question, and we know kind of what went down this year, and in the Texas Congress with all the, well, and honestly, it goes back to the Supreme Court, but then with the Texas Congress passing these laws that are just so ridiculously controlling. The
Correct.
question comes here, which is emergency contraception, excuse me, Plan B, a viable alternative to abortion for victims of rape or incest?
That particular question I will leave to the victims of rape and incest and their parents or guardians. That is a question for them. The government should not be. Here's my whole position on the whole abortion issue. And it gets twisted in many different directions. And it gets twisted so much that a lot of people view it confusing. The choice is an individual choice. And I am a father of 6, a grandfather of 7. To me personally, there's absolutely nothing more precious than life. However, 4 of my children are girls, and nobody has a right to tell them what they can or cannot do with their body. The government should not be legislating morality, especially a legislature, both federal and state, that is made up of mostly men, should not be legislating moral issues that they will never have to choose. They will never have to face those moral issues. It's women who will have to face those moral issues, and that should be left up to them and their families.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I mean, like, I understand where there's like a lot of pushback on abortion just because it does seem like a harsh process and it doesn't seem like it should be necessary, but my goodness, life is not so simple and things are complex, and especially in those cases like rape and incest like we talked about, it's so difficult to try to discern exactly. And I mean, government has no business. We've got to come to that conclusion already. But goodness gracious,
government has business in prosecuting the rapists, not using all of their resources in chasing people down for smoking a joint.
Right.
That's what we need to use our resources is for those kind of crimes where there is a victim.
So we have another question. This one's on gun control now. We're switching over to that gear. So what is your opinion on raising the legal limit to purchase a gun to 21 in Texas? That was a Beto. I think it's a Beto proposition, but I'd like to hear your thoughts.
Well, and once again, I just have a funny feeling that I'm going to be saying this quite a bit tonight. Shall I use medication of choice, or their solution has more side effects than the problem itself. Because if you pass any gun reform, whether it is raising the age limit or whatever it is, that is unconstitutional, you are creating more of a problem than you are solving, because you are giving false expectations to something that will be knocked down in the Supreme Court. So I'm for addressing the issues that come from violence, and I'm for addressing the violence. I'm not for addressing the tool of choice, if that makes any sense.
I think that makes perfect sense to me. I mean, again, like you said, it's a tool, and tools can be used for good. More people are killed with hammers than killed with handguns, I think, was one of the stats that I've seen before. So it's it's kind of ridiculous to try to control one of those.
Well, and I think this all stems from school violence, and that there are many things that need to be addressed there. For that particular issue, I know this is going beyond raising the age limit to purchase a gun, but the issues in school violence, that there are issues that we can address. And yes, mental health is definitely one of them. But there are other issues. For instance, the truancy laws that force parents to send their children to government schools all the way through 12th grade. And some of these students adamantly do not want to be there. And they build up anger and resentment for having to be there against particular schools, against particular teachers, that wind up exploding. And if we see most of the shootings, it was with disgruntled students or somebody that had a vendetta against a particular school, a particular teacher, or a particular institution. These truancy laws that force people to go there, we need to address those. We need to have school choice where the parents can choose what schools to send their kids to, using the criteria of what curriculum, and also including how safe are they.
Yeah, totally understand that. Absolutely.
There was a question.
We had a question pop up, and thinking it's going to come back here shortly. But yeah, I definitely think that you're absolutely right. Oh, here we go. Okay, so Mark, this one's in Spanish, and so I'm not going to butcher the language in front of you and have you critique me. So I'll just have you read your question about school security, and then have you give your answer if you don't mind. Thank you.
I'll read it in Spanish and then I'll read it in English. ¿Cómo puedes asegurar la seguridad en las escuelas? How can you assure the safety in schools? Este es un tema muy importante de la cual la atención se ha puesto en otras cosas, se pone en la herramienta, en las armas, y no en el problema y las soluciones. La solución específica de cómo puedo asegurar la seguridad en las escuelas, ni yo, ni ningún candidato, ni ningún gobierno puede asegurar absolutamente nada. Sin embargo, hay muchas cosas que podemos hacer para mediar eso. Una de las cosas que podemos hacer es devolver la soberanía a los padres, darles opciones escolares para que los padres, junto con los estudiantes, puedan escoger las escuelas donde manden a sus hijos, incluyendo el currículo que ofrece la escuela, así como la seguridad que ofrece la escuela para esos niños. Todo eso son los detalles que pueden tomar en cuenta un padre que cuenta con la soberanía de determinar por sí mismo cómo y dónde educar a sus hijos. The answer that I gave is not I, nor any other candidate, nor any other government official or anybody can ensure the safety of anybody, but we can address certain issues. And some of the issues that we have to address, we must give back the sovereignty to the parents and to make the decisions where they educate and how they educate their children by giving them school choice and choices. Not only can they choose what curriculum they want to send their children to the school that has the proper curriculum, but also the safety record and the safety that is installed in the different schools.
Yeah, wonderful. I mean, to expect absolute security is foolishness. In any scenario. Like you can't predict, you can't protect everybody all the time. That's just impossible. Well, but I think that question is a little silly, but I'm glad you answered it, and I'm glad that we got that one down.
Well, but the thing is also is if we take the rights of the parents away, the parents should have the sovereign right to educate and protect their children. If we have the Democrat solution that they believe they have the sovereign right and obligation to educate our children in the way they see fit and how they see fit and the curriculum that they see fit, that's wrong. They are not our boss. They're not empowered to be our boss. We are the boss, and we must be in control of our destiny.
Gotcha. Wonderful. Yeah, 100%. So now we have a good old question that came up in the debate, and we'd love to hear your take on this one. And that is, what steps would you take to avoid a grid failure like we had in 2021 in February, the Snowmageddon, as we called it? Please elaborate, Mark. What do you think?
Well, number one, I wouldn't be appointing political cronies to handle the grid or manage the grid. I built, own and operate a hydroelectric plant in Belize, Central America. I know a little bit about generation and transmission and distribution. And the grid really consists of those three components. And the major component here that will cause a grid to fail is the generation. We need to make it easier, get rid of a lot of the regulations. I mean, here we give, the governor gives hundreds of millions of dollars to large corporations, but yet we have such burdensome regulations placed upon people or companies that wish to generate electricity, whether it's natural gas. We have a lot of natural gas. We need to get rid of all the burdensome regulation, maybe not all, but most of it, so that companies can once again start putting in generation plants. We have to get rid of this boogeyman mentality that is accompanied with nuclear energy. Nuclear energy is the safest, cheapest, cleanest, most readily available energy that we have if we just allow it to be developed safely, which it can, and it has been. That more people die in a coal mines and mining coals and with the old generation style on an annual basis than have ever died in all the history of nuclear generation.
Absolutely, and I'm a little bit of a nuclear fanatic, being that I did that in the Navy, and I would love to have a couple more nuclear options here in the Texas, just to have a job, because right now your two choices are either the Houston area, which, not going to poo-poo on any of them, and then like south of Dallas area there at the Comanche Peak. But unfortunately, Texas, as large as it is, we have, I think it's roughly 6,000 megawatts of nuclear generation, which it sounds like a lot, but considering that the Texas grid is typically consuming roughly, what is it, like 50, upwards of 50 or 60,000 megawatts of power at peak times during the summer, and possibly during the winter again. We'll just see. But I just think that has to be something that we really, really, look into. But yeah, so anyway, moving on to our next question. The Libertarian Party of Bexar County has asked, so a break from policy questions. How's your campaign going? How is it for you and your family? And how is this different from your last run? And how can counties and individuals assist you during this final phase? And that is a fantastic question. I would love to hear your answer, Mark. Please hit us with it.
Well, actually, the family's taking it great. I'm actually doing it myself. My wife took a position in California, running a special needs program facility over there, which I'm very proud of her for doing that. She's been over there for a couple years now. So on the family, it's hasn't been that difficult. It's been Texas is very large. So on me, it can get tiring trying to get from one end of the state to the other. But it's been going real good. As usual, we get the pushback from the Democrats and Republicans that don't want to include us in debates, don't want to include us in the news media. The news media pretty much ignores us, which is kind of to be expected because we don't spend $50 million of ads on their stations. So they, they're polite and would like to do an interview with you in case we ever need it. We are, I believe we're doing much better, not necessarily better, but much more outreach, much more in-person contacts and events and socials and that than we did last time. Obviously, we're not doing as much as I would like to. The affiliated counties can always help. Bear County, we appreciate they put up some good stuff for us. Different events, we can always use different events. Help us get out some of the materials. We have 4x8 signs, we have 2x4 signs, we have the regular signs, we have brochures, flyers, door hangers in English and Spanish, and bumper sticker, just anything you can help us get out. And obviously donations. We are fighting against two campaigns that the Democrats and Republicans that basically, I can't afford to fly up to New York for a fundraiser, or nobody in Hollywood wants to host me or have me on the show for a fundraiser. And I didn't hire somebody to write a catchy book like Beto did to promote. So we're stuck with promoting liberty. We're stuck with speaking the truth. And this is exactly why I knew we were not going to be in the debate, and why I don't expect to be in any debate, because the Democrats and Republicans, as that one great movie said, they can't handle the truth.
Yeah, it's quite amazing, like how the links they go to, and your average American, or for that matter, your average Texan, just not privy to like how the entire system works against third parties or independents. And I know a lot of people blame Ross Perot for being the one that kind of broke that camel's back, because he was the one that was actually able to get into the debates by having money. And nowadays, there's probably hardly any way as a libertarian you could buy your way into the debates. But certainly, if you don't have money, yeah, that's you're kind of lost there.
Well,
But,
and one of the criteria is you have to get so much percentage in a poll. Well,
when they don't include you in the polls, you don't have a chance.
How can you get a percentage if you're not included in a poll? So
yeah, it's literally, yeah, that's magic land where you could actually be able to do that. Okay, so
about somebody growing marijuana, I thought I saw.
Yeah,
that.
we had that question pop in and pop out. I'm not sure if these are like time sensitive or what, but we'll just go ahead and go with this next one from Logan Martinez on Facebook. He asked us, is there any way to get your literature? I've done canvassing in Bexar County, and I would love to hit October hard talking to the community about voting libertarian. And yes, please, Mark, share that information to Logan.
Absolutely. You can go on our website at www.markforgov.com. You can get all the materials. Yep, all the materials you want there. We will be happy to mail them to you. If you can't donate for them, we will send them to you free. Just tell us what you need. We will send you anything you need. We just ask, please use it all. But absolutely, we will send you signs. We will send you literature, English, Spanish, whatever you want. But yes, please. And we do get requests every day for materials and bumper stickers and door hangers, and people volunteering to put them out. And we're very, very grateful for that. And My campaign manager is very, very good, Wes Benedict, at getting the materials out. I know he's making runs to the UPS every day, 2, 3, 4 times a day, getting the materials out. I myself, when I'm on the road, I always have materials with me, and I have stopped by individuals' homes, businesses, dropped it off, delivered it to them. So yes, we will get you whatever you need.
Fantastic. Right on. And so now we have a question from Stephen Broussard. I think I'm saying that right, on Facebook. And he asked, what will you do to help law enforcement? All the attention is on peace officers and qualified immunity. Judges and attorneys are the ones protected by total qualified immunity. That's interesting.
I personally don't believe that qualified immunity should really exist. If you're a police officer, most of them should be bonded. But the one thing that we can do to help our police officers, and I am speaking of a personal experience, being a victim of a crime recently. The police, basically their hands were tied to be able to do anything about that crime because they are so spent, you might say. They're stretched so thin by chasing after people who have marijuana or smoking marijuana. We need to legalize marijuana. That in and of itself would free up hundreds of millions of dollars of not only police funds, but energy and effort, not only of the police officers, but the judges and the prosecuting attorneys, so that they can judge and prosecute and go after victim crimes like rape and murder and robbery and people who have their vehicles broken into. And those are the crimes that the police, even the police themselves, say those are the crimes they would prefer to be going after, not these victimless crimes of people smoking marijuana or having marijuana or growing it. That has to be addressed.
Yeah, I can't agree more with that. And it's interesting because the questioner Stephen, he posited that qualified immunity doesn't protect an officer who commits a criminal offense, which then he said after you kind of explained a little further, he's like, yeah, he's on your side as far as like getting rid of these quote unquote BS sort of laws, so that cops can actually do their job. They can actually go after real criminals with real issues and not have to dilly-dally with traffic offenses and the like. And so now, as we talked about marijuana now, and let's just move on to Kyle Ward's question on YouTube, where he asked, should we allow individuals to grow their own marijuana? Would you impose any restrictions like other states on growing it? If so?
Yes and no. Yes, we should allow people to consume whatever they wish to consume. And no, we should not impose any restrictions on it. Now, the only restriction that I would impose on it, that it's imposed on alcohol, on tobacco, on many things, is you cannot sell it or give it to minors. But that is common sense, and anybody who asks about legalizing marijuana and all that understands that. So Kyle's not going down that path. So, but yes, I mean, I still am baffled of who gave the government authority, both state or federal, to tell us what plants we can and can't consume. Avocados are very fattening. Should the government be able to say, well, they're bad for your cholesterol, so you can't consume these? I mean, in my mind, this is how ridiculous that the whole issue of marijuana being illegal.
Seriously, yeah. Absolutely. And we just, oh, okay. Yeah, the questions keep changing on me. But so this one's from Judith, and we both know Judith. I know that. But so Judith asks, so if you win the office of governor, what are your top three priorities to tackle immediately, and in which order and how?
Um, Number one would be, I would have to say, school choice. And all of the problems that have to be tackled, contrary to popular belief, contrary to the belief of Democrats and Republicans, and contrary to the belief of what Democrats in the duopoly would like people to believe, the governor is not king. He is not a dictator. So he has to promote his ideas. You have to lead. You have to set your goals, and then you have to lead and rally the people to make their legislators enact and make the reform that you want. The example that I will give is when John Kennedy and have do not say this in any kind of comparison. I say it out of respect. When John Kennedy said, "In this decade, we will take a man to the moon and bring him safely home." When he said that, there wasn't a man alive on this earth that knew how to even orbit a rocket in space, let alone take a man to the moon and back. So if some of the issues that, but when he said that, it inspired a nation, and it inspired them, and it was a call to action. School choice will be something that will have to go through our legislative process, but I can speak about it. I can promote it. I can ignite the people to get behind it to where their legislators can see this is what the people want. We must reduce the government. The Texas government has become so overbearing. There are so many laws on the books that are so unnecessary. We have to reduce that, and we have to reduce the tax spending that comes along with that. We must end the mandates. We have to do something to make it so that the next person, because the Democrats and Republicans, they don't want to end the mandates. They want that power for themselves. I would like to see a way to end the mandates so nobody who's in the governor's office can order us to wear masks, shut down churches, shut down schools, shut down independent businesses, ruin lives, all in the name of some COVID or what's going to be the next made up thing, whether it's made up or not. It give us information and let us govern ourselves.
Fantastic. Love that. Yeah. Our friend Steve Broussard here also said he's not king. Abbott believes he is. And I totally,
Yeah.
totally see that as legitimate because, yeah, I mean, Abbott, I mean, and when if Beto were elected, assuming he did, I don't think he'd be any different. He'd be a tyrant.
It'd be worse.
It'd probably be worse.
Oh, no.
Exactly.
They just wanted to replace one tyrant for another.
For another, yeah, and it's unfortunate. That's what people think their two choices are. Like we can't get past that hump of, well, we need an authoritarian figure, and it's why.
Well,
it seems ridiculous.
And once again, I'll say this: if people think that Beto is the medicine for as a cure, they really need to look at the side effects that comes with that pill, because the side effects, the list of the side effects are so long that it is worse than the disease.
Right.
And we've seen it with what Greg Abbott has done. And with Beto O'Rourke, it'll be the same thing. The cure is going to be worse than the disease. Read the list of side effects that you're going to get with both of these guys.
Ouch. Yeah, absolutely. And so then Steve follows up with a question. He's wanting to know through Facebook, what will you do to lower property taxes for those people who are 65 years old?
Once again, this is something that takes leadership to force or to cooperate with the legislature, because keep in mind, this is something that I cannot wave a magic wand to take care of, even if I could, I would somehow ban that magic wand because I wouldn't have it forever. But it is something that anybody who has retired should be able to enjoy the fruits of their labor, should be able to say, this is mine, you cannot have it. I do not have to pay you taxes on it anymore. I am retired, or I am 65, or what I would like to see eventually, property taxes totally eliminated. It would be something that could never happen in just one term or two terms. It's something that would have to be eased out of, because, like I say, we didn't get here overnight, and it would take hard work and dedication to move forward and get us out of here. But it was the easy steps that led us here to begin with. So we must be inspiring leaders to rally the people, because it's the people that rule. Rally the people to force their legislators to take and pass the type of reforms that eliminates property tax for people who are retired that own their own property. And as far as yeah,
wonderful. Yeah. So Kyle Ward on YouTube. His question just went away. Okay. And so he was asking. So, and I was curious about this too. Is like, so as governor, like, what powers does the governor have? Because I'm not necessarily sure. I mean, other than like going along with the Texas Congress and maybe, setting limits or whatever. But how would you provide long-term property tax relief as governor?
That's the same, pretty much the same way. You have to get. If you look in history, all great leaders, they did not propose minutia details of how to accomplish everything. They basically inspired the people, knew what needed to be done, knew what the end goal was. And instead of relying on one individual, be it myself or someone else's idea, that then you are stuck with, and the side effects are going to be worse than the disease, let's rely on the people. Let's put the power back in the people's hand and inspire the people to come up with the best solutions of how to achieve that, and then get our legislators to act. That is how, in history, that is how all true leaders have led, is by inspiring the people.
Yeah, fantastic. And I guess that's like the whole thing of the governor. They talk about how the lieutenant governor is so powerful, and that's definitely a thing. But the governor definitely has the the audience for sure. To kind of sway things.
Yeah, the governor definitely has the soapbox, if you will. He
Right.
does have the ear of the media. He has the ear of the people. He does have the ear of the sheriff's associations. There is a lot of things that the governor can do, but he's not a dictator. And for true lasting solutions, it takes the legislature to enact change. And that is what, by if you really want to see the Democrats and Republicans work together, elect a libertarian governor, because I'm going to tell you, the Democrats and Republicans can work together. I've seen it. I'm involved in lawsuits against bogus laws that they enacted just to keep libertarians off the ballot. So if you want the Democrat and Republican legislature to really work for you, elect a libertarian governor, because a libertarian governor can work with both sides and can bring true change, meaningful change, lasting change, the type of change that we can leave to our children and our children's children, and leave a better Texas than what we had.
I love that. Our friend Steve Broussard just popped in and said he was not going to vote for this. He was not going to vote this cycle, but you've inspired me. You have my vote, which I certainly hope that there's a few more of those, because that's wonderful to see. But yeah,
Well,
so
I was at the El Paso Community College this past Thursday, I believe it was, and Wednesday or Thursday. And the students, the questions and everything, it just, they inspire me to keep going. And I mean, one after another told me the same thing. You know, I wasn't going to vote at all because it's just so boring. Why? And they said, and then we heard you, and he said, we're going to actually vote. And if you don't vote, you're not heard. And the one guy said, we've been told that, you know, voting for somebody else is just a wasted vote. They said, but here all we had to choose from was red or blue ice cream, and along comes Rocky Road. Well, hell, I think we're going to vote now.
amen.
Those aren't my words.
Love it. Love it. Indeed. Okay, so now we have a question from Warren Peck on Facebook, and he asks, where do you stand on Texas independence, i.e. secession?
I would be probably one of the first to agree that we are in a bad marriage. And I view that there's the saying that as goes Texas, so goes the rest of the country. That is more true than most people want to believe. Texas joined the Union under treaty, with a treaty. The only state that joined under treaty. Yes, there's a lot of people who will argue it was forced to stay under the Civil War. That did not nullify the treaty. And yes, we are in a bad marriage. But I do not rule that option out, because that is always an option. People always have the right to seek their own destiny, just like we did when we seceded from the king. I don't think we're there yet. I don't think that we should quite give up, because the ripple effect that it would have to so many other states that are not as big and powerful as Texas. Texas is probably one of the only states in the Union that can stand on its own. California sure can't. It's already bankrupt. But Texas can stand on its own. It has its own ports. It has, but what we have to also view the cause and effect. And yes, that option, you never rule it out. If you have that option, it's like if you have nukes. You never rule it out. But I don't think we're there yet. I think if we only have Democrat or Republicans to choose from forever as governor, by all means, we're done. But if we ever have a libertarian, a third party, or an independent as governor that has the free will and the free-minded thinking that we do, we have a chance to push back and regain all of our sovereign rights that belong to us that have been usurped by the federal government. The list just goes on of how much it is. There's a lot of work that has to be done. But the Democrats and Republicans, not that some of them probably don't want to do it, they can't. Einstein clearly said it. You cannot solve a problem with the same mindset that created it. And until we have different mindset in there, we will never be able to solve these problems.
Yeah, fantastic. Nothing to add to that one. So Nolan Schmidt, who happens to be a good friend of mine and my vice chair here in Guadalupe County, asked if a pandemic like that of COVID-19 were to happen again, would there be a plan to prevent forced shutdowns of businesses, churches, etc.? What would your take be on that as governor, Mark?
Well, it was the governor who shut him down. There would, if I was governor, there would be no need to be a plan. They just simply would not be shut down. I don't care. The only way that I could see that the special act would be needed would be in case we are being invaded by a foreign country. And I don't foresee that happening because Texans are pretty heavily armed. But the thing is what we needed during the pandemic was true leadership, and is what we got was puppets. And the whole is all Texans needed. Is all we needed was true, real, unbiased information. That's all we needed from the government. Give us true information and let us make our choices. Do we want to wear a mask? Do we want our children to wear a mask? Do we want to send our kids to school? Do we want to shut a business? Do we choose not to go into another business? It is we, the people, that need to make these decisions, not King Abbott.
Wonderful, yeah. So I definitely agree with all that for sure. Like the mandates are just ridiculous. But so we have Benzo Barbie from YouTube asking, how do you feel about any defend the guard legislation? Are you familiar or?
You're probably looking this baffled look on my face, right?
No. Yeah, no issues. But I think what she's talking about is where there's been legislation proposed where it would prevent the like the Texas National Guard from it being involved in any overseas conflicts, sort of thing. I think I'm right.
Okay.
If she or somebody else would quickly just pop into the comments.
Yeah.
I think that's what that is.
I think you're starting to spark my memory here again. Yes, the National Guard. I had such a problem with sending National Guardsmen and women overseas and everything else. I kept thinking to myself, what part of National Guard don't you get? The National Guard should never, ever be sent overseas. Matter of fact, most of our military should not be sent overseas in all these engagements that we have that are non-provoked, and or we stick our nose in so much of other people's business that, as Ron Paul put it, the blowback is just so you can't even measure it anymore. It's gotten so much out of control. So no, the National Guard should not be, it should be used as that, National Guard. The Texas National Guard should be used to defend Texas. And yes, I mean, they're called out sometimes for hurricanes and nature blowing a gasket and stuff like that. Yes, we need the National Guard, but not to send overseas.
Yeah, no, you answered it perfectly. Kyle just jumped in with defend the National Guard legislation would prohibit a state's National Guard units from being deployed into active combat without a formal declaration of war by Congress, as provided by the U.S. Constitution, which is pretty much what you just leveled out there, and I think that's absolutely fair. So on Facebook, Paige Newton asks views and/or plans on justice reform, specifically the poorly run, mismanaged, and underfunded business that the TDCJ. I'm assuming you probably know what that is, Mark, because I'm not sure.
Texas Department of Criminal Justice.
Criminal Justice. Okay, I couldn't. I wasn't sure if it's corrections or yeah. Okay.
I'm assuming that too. Well, and one of this goes back to what I was saying before. One of the first things, in order to get a handle on something, you have to identify the problem, and then you have to identify all the things that are hindering you from really reforming things. And our laws on the war on drugs, the marijuana, it takes up so much effort, money, resources in fighting non-victimless crimes. The problem would not be as grave as it is. Our prisons would not be so overburdened, and the conditions in those prisons would not be so appalling if we were only incarcerating hard victim crime individuals. The victimless crime incarceration rate is it's ridiculous. We need to get that under control. Then we would have proper resources and management. The justice system could then focus on true criminals.
I like that. We've got a few comments here in the comment section talking about the war on drugs is basically is for the government to benefit financially, and that was from Steve Broussard again, who's been quite active in the chat. But
I'm glad you're seeing the chat. I don't see the chat, so
yeah, no worries. Yeah,
somebody does.
I'm kind of following along. Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, so Thomas Havens, I'm not sure, but he says gun control will not work. People can build guns, and yeah, that's a thing.
Well, here's the thing. Why is the violence for smuggling marijuana and drugs so prevalent? Because they're illegal. It's the problem with, and he's absolutely correct. We're very, very resourceful people. I mean, technology's to the point now you can print them almost. So yes, he's absolutely correct. But the war on drugs, for instance, we've got it backwards. I do not know, and I was born and raised in Mexico. I do not know of any cartel or any report in the U.S. of cartels holding guns to people's head, forcing them to take drugs. They can't get them up here fast enough. The issue is, why are we consuming so much drugs? And then now they talk, well, fentanyl. I remember when fentanyl wasn't a thing. Well, we designed it here in the U.S. It was a designer drug here in the U.S. They just can make it cheaper in China and in Mexico, like they do our automobiles, and then they will bring it across here. So the issue isn't, we're attacking the wrong issue. The issue is, why are we consuming so much drugs? Is it the breakdown of society? Is it the breakdown of the family? And the people who are complaining about it the worst are the people who are consuming it the most. Go to Wall Street. All those offices are cram-packed full of it. Ever seen the Wolf of Wall Street? Anyway.
Great movie. Yeah, but definitely. And it's like, it's so silly to think that you can just by making it illegal. I mean, obviously, um, making alcohol illegal didn't work. And so, yeah, so prohibition was an absolute fail. So it's like, why try prohibition again and again and again and again? And we just keep doing it. And it's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
And at some point, especially when it's something that you can grow as a plant, it's like, do the cartels have a control over tomatoes and avocados and hot peppers and jalapenos? No, they don't. So,
Well, yeah, because anybody can bring them in, and they're
yeah,
not illegal.
yeah, and it's like, why even why even bother? I think we have time for another question yet, right? Do we know? Okay, so here we go. So this is from Caleb. Ooh, this is a. Can you say that name, Mark? Muskis. Is
Uh,
that right?
Kayla
Okay.
Muski.
Anyway, from Kayla on Twitter, she asked, "Will you be focusing at all on the foster care system in Texas?"
Yes. And my first off, my wife works was a teacher, and she works with special needs people. Uh, she sees on a daily basis how the lack of care, the lack of proper care, the lack of love and attention for individuals can create a system that is just appalling. And the foster care system, once again, the government, for all their good intentions or whatever, the cure sometimes is worse than the disease. You have to read the side effects. What the government should support free social programs run by not by the government, but run by nonprofit organizations to care for the children, to care for the foster kids. The government, it wound up being such a revolving door, and people make so much money off of it that it has become a very much appalling in certain circumstances. And yes, something needs to be done. And the best thing that can be done is get the government out of it, so that the private nonprofit organizations that run things with love, compassion, kindness, they do it, so that it's not being done for an almighty buck. I'm going to be a foster care parent and see if I can take care of 50 kids and I'll get a lot of money. And I don't knock those people. Don't get me wrong. I don't knock them. But there is definitely a lot that has to be done. The problem with having the government take care of those certain circumstances, certain social programs. Well, actually, the government shouldn't be handling any of the social programs, because society can handle them so much better. Because what I was had a not a argument, but a discussion with some young ladies, young attorneys, and they were saying that I was heartless because I wanted to do away with social programs, and I said, no, 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 no. I believe in more social programs than the government does. I said, I believe that is how we should be functioning, with more social programs. I just don't believe the government should be running the social programs. We need nonprofit organizations that have compassion and caring, that want to solve the problem so that they don't have to do it anymore, rather than the government, who will never solve the problem because they will be without a job. That is where the problem is yes, we need more social programs, but they must truly be social, not run by the government.
Wonderful. So would you consider yourself a voluntarist, Mark?
Yes.
Yes. Wonderful.
Yes. Voluntarism.
Uh-huh.
And also, I'm not, and I never do. Well, I kind of do, I guess, in my mind. Compare the two differences between Mexico and the U.S. and whatnot. And in Mexico, when you graduate from a profession, you have to give social service before you get your professional license to function. Doctors do it, attorneys do it. I had to do it. And also, it used to be that not so much anymore. You had to volunteer for 1 year of service. So I'm all about volunteerism and service because it is a good part of education. It's a good part of growing up. It gives you a good idea and concept of society, of a social network. I just believe it's good all the way around.
Yeah, I totally love that answer. So, yeah, I don't know. Are we going to do any more questions from the floor, or are we pretty much hit the end of it? I know there was one that popped up while we were talking, but I didn't necessarily. I see it here in the chat though. If we want to go about it, but I don't know at what point. Mark, are we good to continue on? Okay. Okay, so yeah, so here's one in the chat that I found that says adoption, marriage, consumption, property ownership. Is there anything the government doesn't have its tendrils in? When will people wake up?
That's a good statement, and I wish I had an answer to when the people would wake up. That's why we do this. That's why I get up every morning. That's why, I mean, been asked, and I believe at the end of this, I'll ask somebody to put up a video that I made, basically addressing. I've been asked many, many, many times, against all odds and knowing you're not going to win and everything, why do you even do this? And because we have to keep fighting. Somebody has to keep shouting, even if they won't let us on the mountaintop. We still have to keep fighting the fight because, as my father always said, the moment you stop fighting, they'll take it away from you. And you have to fight with every breath, is what it is. And I equated this to a tug of war. It is a tug of war between the citizens of Texas and the government of Texas. And we must keep a strong rein or they will take our rights away. The rope is our rights and our liberties, and the same with the federal government. And most states have given up all that rope, and the federal government controls everything now. We must pull back.
Fantastic, Mark. So I think we're at the end of our night. If you have anything else that you wanted to talk about, Mark, please pipe up if there's anything that you want to say. Otherwise, we're gonna outro with a little video of some things that you said at one of your meetups. And unless you have anything else you want to touch upon, we can just call it a night. And thank you everybody for the questions, and thank y'all for tuning in.
Thank you much, everybody. I hope you enjoyed the video.
I'm Mark Tippett, candidate for governor. As a libertarian candidate, I am constantly asked, against the insurmountable odds and knowing you cannot win, why do you even run? The Libertarian Party itself was started 50 years ago, but libertarianism and libertarian values is what this country was founded on. To me, libertarianism is a way of life. It is your values, your principles, your actions, your deeds. I have always been a libertarian, and even if the Libertarian Party never existed, I would still be a libertarian. My father, having served in World War II, and as part of the greatest generation, raised his family with fundamental libertarian values. He never talked much about the war, but when I asked why he fought, he would simply say, for freedom. We fought to protect our freedom, our country's freedom, and our family's freedom. He would tell me, "You must understand that total freedom is not something you can actually achieve in this life. Freedom in this life is something that you can briefly hold and taste, but it is very fleeting. Liberty and freedom is something that you cherish and fight for every day, whether if it's on the battlefield or in your daily life. For the moment you stop fighting for your freedom, it is taken from you and it is lost. And all those who die in the fight for freedom die free men, for with their last breath they find true freedom." My father believed it is the fight for freedom itself that makes us free. So why do I do this? Why do I fight and why do I run? I do it because this is my fight for freedom, and my fight for freedom is what truly makes me free. This November, you too can fight for liberty and freedom. Vote Libertarian.